Hey everyone, I'm Chad with Issaquah Lumber, and welcome to the Lumber Lounge. We're surrounded by our Cascade collection. It's our premier brand here at Issaquah Lumber. If you want to learn more, please reach out to issaquahlumber.com. Today's guest, I'm going to say he's the technical expert for one of my favorite, I guess we'll call it species of wood. So I'd like to introduce everybody to Danny Trebelhorn with Access Technologies. Welcome to the Lumber Lounge. We're excited to have you. Accoya, the product we're talking about, is one of our favorite species to work with. We've done some really big projects, both commercial, residential. It's probably the first modified, if we're going to put it in that envelope, product that we were exposed to. So really excited today to help everybody just get a better understanding about Accoya. But to start with, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself. I hear you're some kind of mad scientist or something like that. What brought you into the wood industry, and what brought you to Accoya?
Yeah, so I started out at Oregon State University.
Go Beavs.
That's right. Started out in the renewable materials side of things. It's an undergrad degree.
Okay.
And then after that, stayed there to get my master's in wood science. And that really just came from a passion from working with wood. I would make bows and some shoddy furniture and
Nice.
things like that,
Yeah,
you know. And just really enjoyed working with it and getting lost in the grain. And I was actually doing some research for an external party there at Oregon State in the realm of modified wood.
Okay.
And they brought a chunk of Accoya in and slammed it on the desk and said, "This is the benchmark. This is where we need to perform or exceed." So that was kind of one of my first introductions to Accoya. Through the university, Axis was doing some testing.
Okay.
So the head of North America at the time had come in to follow up on some of that testing. And I was introduced to him, and sort of the rest is history from there.
Nice.
Yeah.
How long have you been with Accoya?
Since 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about where Accoya is harvested, where it comes from.
So Accoya, before it's Accoya, is radiata pine.
Okay.
That's harvested primarily out of New Zealand. The reason for that is it's very well managed forests there, as opposed to some of these other countries we could go source, or regions we could go source radiata pine from. But you happen to get a little bit more defect. Pruning isn't done as regularly or as well. So we just get very good, clear quality material out of those New Zealand plantation grown forests.
Okay.
And those are on a very quick growth cycle. So in about 20 to 30 years is their
Wow.
growth cycle, more like 25 to 30.
Wow. Okay.
And then they're harvested and turned into acetylated wood, or Accoya.
So harvested on a plantation would then, and I would think, mean it's a FSC product.
Correct. Yep.
Does it have any other of those nomenclature things that everybody find important that falls along with it?
Yeah, so it's certified within LEED. You can gain
Okay.
LEED points by building with it, as well as cradle to cradle. We have an overall gold certification.
Okay.
I believe we're one of the first products to receive that. It was fairly new several years ago. I think more people are familiar with cradle to cradle now. If we look at the material health section of cradle to cradle specifically, we did score a platinum.
Okay.
And when we look at that Accoya Color Gray product, both in material health and water stewardship, we scored platinum as well.
Great. You guys were one of the first ones, I think, into North America. Has that been a benefit for you guys, just being kind of leading the way? Feel like you're kind of pulling some people along with that?
Yeah, I think it was good to have that initial exposure and be one of the first out there, getting people more comfortable with the term modified wood.
Right.
And I really don't think there's been any negatives to it per se. I think in time, each different modified wood or type of modification will show what it's best used for in different applications.
Right. So that's a great lead in, because we talk to people about modified material, and for the good and the bad, modified material is just a giant umbrella. Mm-hmm. And there's different kinds. We've talked about it on the show before. You've got acetylation, furfilation, there's thermal modification, there's open systems, closed systems. It gets lumped into one umbrella. I think that, furfilation, acetylation would probably say, hey, we're different than that. Can you just talk to us a little about how Accoya is made so that we get a better understanding of that?
Sure. Yeah. So if we look at wood sort of on a molecular scale, I'm going to try to keep this as simple as I can here.
I'm just a woodpecker, so
there's some I'll call them functional groups. They serve a purpose inside the wood, and they contribute to the absorption of moisture, and therefore the movement of wood, also creating sites for rot and decay. And so we really focus down on two specific functional groups within the wood, and we modify those essentially using vinegar. That's sort of layman's terms. That's
the
big secret.
Dealt with Accoya before, you're gonna know it by its smell. Smells like vinegar and pickles. So,
yeah, and so using that technology, which is not a new technology at all, it's been around over 100 years now.
Really?
Applied to various things in the past, and never really to solid wood up until sort of the 80s. And I suppose there was attempts before that, but we sort of started out as an R&D program looking at how can we scale this up and apply this technology to solid wood rather than wood fiber products as it had been in the past. And so in doing that, we essentially became the sole producer of that material, and still are today, the only ones in the world that produce that.
And you can use that process on any species of wood?
You can, yeah. Some species are a little more resistant to it, meaning that it just takes longer to do. And so we use radiata pine. It's very receptive to that process. There's an abundance of it in New Zealand, and of course, being a ton of it out there and being rapidly renewable, it's a great wood basket for us. We could pull from other places in the world the same fiber, but we just don't get the same quality.
Interesting.
And that's something we pride ourselves on, is that very clear material.
Yes, I've seen some pitch pockets, if you will, but I don't know that I've ever seen a knot in all the stuff that you guys have sent us.
Yeah.
So radiata pine. Now I'm familiar with radiata pine away from Accoya as well. It's super easy to mill. Like it's one of the nicer woods to work with if you're in our position where we're producing patterns and things like that. On the market in general, we know it as siding, decking, stuff like that. What are some of the other uses that it gets used for, across the industry?
Yeah, so like you said, siding and decking are the primary applications for it. A lot of it goes into doors and windows as well. As you can imagine, these units need to be operable year-round. When we see really wet climates or really arid climates, those woods want to tend to move around. And with this acetylation process, it increases that dimensional stability of the wood.
Got it.
And so that means that your door and window units, they operate year-round. They don't stick or let air flow in, things like that. But the applications are really endless. We produce it as a rough sawn board, so it can be milled into virtually anything. We see a lot of exterior kitchens, exterior furniture. I mean, you name it. There's a ton of different applications it goes into, and I think we've only really scratched the surface.
So you can correct me if I'm wrong, but paint grade products, the paint usually fails because the substrate is moving. Paint loses elasticity and then starts to peel and crack over time. With the stability of Accoya, which is really one of the selling points of the product, I'd venture to guess that if we treat that as a paint grade product, like we would be painting that quite a bit less often, I would think, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, that is one of the main benefits. And over in Europe, still a lot of painted doors and windows and plenty of other applications. That's been sort of a go-to product there, and it's slowly becoming a go-to product here as well for paint grade items. Some of those European coating companies, we're working on the U.S. ones as well, but they'll actually extend their warranties out.
Oh, based off of it being
that it's being applied to Accoya.
Nice.
The two sort of look after each other.
Okay.
Yeah.
And for our people in areas with termites, my understanding is they're not big fans of Accoya. Is that right?
No, they're not. They nibble and graze, but they ultimately don't attack it. So they'll try it out, test it out, see what it's all about. But at the end of the day, they move on to something else nearby if they can find it.
Nice.
So because of that, we can't necessarily warranty against that and say that it's not going to happen. They're not going to try it out, but we know that it's very, very resistant.
It is a very versatile product, and I know for us it's a little unique in that it's one of the fewer ones that, like Accoya itself, doesn't produce a lot of patterns. Mm-hmm. Right? As a matter of fact, as far as I know, there's only one, which is the decking, the 5/4x6 decking. Sure. So it's a great partnership program with us where we, as Accoya Lumber, specializes in the milling of the material. And like I said before, radiata pine's a great product to mill. You guys have great lengths, right? It's a great length structure. Although we would like you to send us, 12 feet, not 11 foot 10, but that's the metric system. I don't know that we're ever getting away from that. So as far as Accoya goes, I know the big move, it seemed like, was you guys moved into a new facility here to start producing material in the U.S. Is that correct?
That's right.
And whereabouts is that?
So speaking to your length concern there, some of those things are changing with this new domestic plant. Mm. Late summer of 2024, we commissioned a new plant in Kingsport, Tennessee.
Okay.
And that's situated on the campus with Eastman Chemical.
Okay.
And so it's a joint venture with Eastman. One of their byproducts is actually our vinegar product that we use for that process. So it's a much safer way to deal with just the transport of chemical and wood. It's all in one place. And even some of our byproduct, which is more like true table vinegar than what we start with, that can actually be sent right back to them, literally piped back.
Oh, nice.
Directly to them, and they can reuse it in other applications.
Okay. So we know of Accoya two ways. Natural, mm-hmm. which it's actually right there.
Yeah.
And then they've got a gray product. Can you explain to us or how that gray product comes around and how you make that? Because there's some definitely confusion in the market as to what that is. We've mm-hmm. heard people say, it's an extra step, so it's actually a better piece of wood. It's going to perform better. It's harder, whatever it is. So you talk to us a little bit about the actual, I think they refer to it as the colored. We call it the gray.
Yeah, Accoya color gray.
Yep.
Yeah. Any color you want, as long as it's gray.
That's right.
We've showcased it at several trade shows, and people walk by it and they think, is that a composite?
Yeah.
That's just where the mind goes when you see sort of these gray decking type products, and as soon as they walk up to it, stand on it, touch it, feel it, they're blown away. Wow, this is still real wood. And it is, it's an extra step for us to put that color into that wood. We do that by a secondary pressure process, essentially, which forces a die all the way through to the core of that of each board. Mm-hmm. So you can manipulate that board in any way that you need to, and it's still going to be gray all the way through. And that's been a really good alternative or solution to natural weathering.
Right, especially in climate like ours.
Yeah, these damp climates can be prone to biological growth and things like that are quite apparent on a lighter species, mm-hmm. right? And so that gray product is really given an alternative to natural weathering in terms of getting that gray today,
right,
and not having to wait for it and go through some of that,
right,
that process of weathering.
Yeah, I know. Gray wasn't around when we originally started.
No.
And with Accoya, our experience and has played out over time, and I think it's a big enough issue that Accoya has addressed it itself, is that you have a lifespan mm-hmm. that you're going through for your finish. If you look up Accoya online, most of the projects that you see, at least initially, they were all from Europe, and they were all final stage were silver.
Yep.
When you put natural Accoya outside in a damp climate like ours, it gets a little bit green, you get some black spots. Yep. Once it gets enough UV to it, all that goes away and it's gray. And so the gray product is amazing, right? We tell people, my example is we live in the Northwest. You're going to go to Hawaii for for vacation. You go sit in the tanning bed and you get kind of like the base tan so that you don't burn.
Exactly.
Accoya gray is the base gray. It'll just continue to silver
That's right.
from there. And I think one of the things we really appreciate is that because of the process of impregnating the wood, like each piece of wood takes it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look like
absolutely.
a fake product where it's all one color gray. You get some variation. You can get some white stripes through there. And it's like, but that's all eventually going to turn silver.
Yeah, with exposure to UV and moisture, any of those variations will definitely evolve over time and sort of even out. But certainly it's a natural material. We're not coming out and saying that
You mean
every
it's not
board's going
perfect?
to be perfect. Right, exactly. Natural wood material, and so you get some of that variation naturally.
Can you speak a little bit? I know one of the things in our commercial applications that draws them to the product right off the bat is the warranty. Can you
Sure.
talk to us about the warranty for the products?
Yeah, so it's got one of the most exceptional warranties out there for a real wood product. We see these 20-year warranties, 30-year warranties, things like that. We give this a 50-year above ground warranty. So you use it 8 inches above grade. You get 50 years against dimensional stability, no more than 2.5%. And you also get that same 50-year against rot or decay.
Nice.
And then if we want to take it a step further, we can bury it in the ground or put it right in fresh water, and we'll still get 25 years out of that.
That's pretty amazing. I know for us, that's a big selling point when we do commercial projects.
Mm-hmm.
We just finished grade school, and it was an Accoya gray. And what people don't realize is that you take a product with a 50-year warranty, that the intent is to let it silver out. So we've already gotten you there. There's no real deferred maintenance on that.
Right.
You're not coming back in 5 to 7 years or 10 years and masking off the entire school or your house
Nope.
in order to refinish it, right? Yeah, you might clean it every once in a while to get the dirt off, but there's no deferred maintenance to that. So while Accoya can be a little bit more expensive up front,
Sure.
it ends up being less expensive over the lifespan.
Yeah, and I think anything out there needs a little aesthetic maintenance from time to time, right? We all do too, but it's that physical performance that's steadfast throughout its lifespan.
It's one of the best products that we've used so far with the grad system.
Yeah.
It's like the perfect partner because it's easy to put on, and with the grad system, increasing the speed of installation actually makes the product less expensive overall with the labor savings. So is there anything new up and coming for Accoya? I know some of the things we struggle with Accoya, and I think that you can speak more to this, might be just the tree is like different sizes, right? Like Accoya gray at this point, like 6 inches as wide as it's going to go. The natural stuff is 8 inch, as far as I know. As you've moved into the U.S. and potentially, I would think maybe take on domestic species or something like that, do we see in the future like growth in size or just what's available to us?
Yeah, I think we'll, for now, probably stick to what we do best, what we know works. For the natural blonde Accoya, there are some wider widths that are produced still in Europe and are not produced here yet in the Kingsport plant. So those just take a little bit longer to get. There may not be as much in terms of volume of those wider and thicker materials. And when it comes to the color gray product, we'll start to run into things like heartwood in some of the wider boards. And that just doesn't quite take that dye or that color as readily.
Got
And
it.
so if we sold you an 8-inch wide board, you might get a strip of 2 inches,
Got it.
up the side of most of those boards.
Right.
It's white.
So one of the things we like to do, because we're all in the wood industry, is we like to ask you, do you have a favorite species of wood? You're a wood scientist.
Well,
so
I'd be
I think,
inclined to say radiata pine,
right.
would I not?
Yes, and I would be inclined to say cedar, but maybe
Yeah.
that's not the case.
Right. I think personally, a lot of people are big fans of white oak, right? That's like
Oh, yeah.
a craze,
Yep.
kind of comes and goes perhaps.
Yep.
But I've always been pretty fond of red oak.
Okay.
As odd as that is, I think just the deep, rich color is the first thing that strikes me. During my time at Oregon State, there's a little camp essentially for students to come in and learn each summer
Okay.
on just different topics on wood. And one of those activities that these kids can do is take these pieces of red oak and dip them in some bubble solution and actually blow bubbles out the other side. And so it really just, it ties in with teaching and learning more about wood in general and why they're able to do that. Why can I blow bubbles through this wood but not this one? And we start to talk into some of those deeper areas. Of course, they're 4th and 5th graders,
right.
So we're not getting too scientific on them. But,
right.
But yeah.
Well, I really appreciate you taking some time out of your day and to sit down with us and talk about Accoya. Hopefully everybody learned a little bit of something. I know I did. If someone wanted to learn more about Accoya or get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, there's plenty of information on Accoya.com. Pretty much anything and everything you want to learn about the product is there. Of course, if you need some help through that, you can always reach out through our Contact Us page.
Okay.
And either myself or one of my colleagues will be in touch.
And Issaquah Lumber, we're a big proponent and seller of Accoya, so you can reach out to us. Chad at issaquahlumber.com. You can find it on our website. We're happy to help with information, with samples, anything like that you're looking for. Well, that's it for us today here at the Lumber Lounge. Thanks to everybody for joining us. If you'd like to be on the Lumber Lounge, reach out to us. I can be reached at chad at issaquahlumber.com. Have a great day, and thanks again for joining us.